She's always late picking up the children, and look at how they're dressed. My son deserves better than her." My mother-in-law's voice carried across the school parking lot as she held court with her circle of PTA moms. I gripped my steering wheel tighter, watching through my car window as she gestured dramatically, perfectly timed for maximum effect. "My name is Emma Sullivan, and at 34, I never thought I'd be hiding in my car to avoid my mother-in-law's latest character assassination attempt. But here I was 5 minutes early for pickup, as always, listening to Patricia Wilson tear down everything about my parenting. The worst part, my husband James was away on a month-long business trip, leaving me to deal with his mother's escalating campaign against me alone. Did you hear she lets them eat store-bought snacks?" Patricia's voice dripped with disdain. "In my day, we made everything from scratch. These modern mothers just don't understand proper nutrition." I watched as the other mothers nodded sympathetically, completely buying into her performance. These were the same women who, until Patricia's arrival 3 months ago, had been my friends. We'd organized school bake sales together, arranged playdates, shared parenting tips. Now they looked at me like I was somehow failing my children. Patricia had moved to our town after her husband's passing, claiming she needed to be closer to family. What she really meant was she needed to be closer to my children, close enough to scrutinize every parenting decision I made. The bell rang, and I stepped out of my car, holding my head high as I walked past Patricia's group. My twins, Sophie and Lucas, burst out of the school doors, their faces lighting up when they saw me. "Mommy." They ran toward me, backpacks bouncing. I hugged them tight, breathing in their familiar scent of crayons and playground dust. "Grammy Pat." Lucas spotted Patricia approaching, and my heart sank as she swept in for her own hugs. "Oh, my darlings," she cooed, shooting me a pointed look. "I noticed you're wearing the same clothes as yesterday. Doesn't Mommy do laundry anymore?" I bit back a retort. The twins wore the same outfits because they were their designated art day clothes. Something Patricia would know if she bothered to read the school newsletter instead of just criticizing my choices. "Actually," Sophie piped up, "we have art class on Mondays and Tuesdays, so we wear our paint clothes. Ms. Martinez says it's smart planning." Patricia's smile tightened. "Well, I suppose that's one way to look at it. Though when your father was young, I always made sure he had fresh clothes every day, no matter what activities were planned." The drive home was tense, with Patricia following us in her car. She'd invited herself over for dinner, again claiming she needed to ensure the children were getting a proper meal. As I prepared dinner, organic chicken, roasted vegetables, and quinoa, though Patricia would surely find fault with it, I overheard her in the living room with the twins. "Doesn't Mommy ever help with your homework?" she asked, her voice carrying deliberately to the kitchen. "Mom always helps us," Lucas defended. "She checks our work every night and helps us practice spelling. But she's so busy with her phone all the time." Patricia pressed. "I've seen her at pickup, always texting." My hands shook as I chopped vegetables. That texting was me managing my successful freelance graphic design business, which allowed me to work flexible hours and be there for my children. But Patricia had already decided I was a distracted, modern mother more interested in social media than parenting. The next morning, I dropped the twins at school, only to be called into the principal's office. My stomach churned as I sat across from Principal Martinez, wondering what Patricia had done now. "Mrs. Sullivan," she began, her expression serious, "I've received some concerning reports about your children's home environment." My heart stopped. "What kind of reports?" "Several parents have expressed worry about the children's well-being. They've mentioned inadequate clothing, nutrition concerns, and claims of neglect." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Let me guess. Patricia Wilson is behind these reports." Principal Martinez's expression remained neutral, but I saw a flicker of recognition in her eyes. "We take all parent concerns seriously, regardless of their source." "Of course," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "But I assume you've also observed Sophie and Lucas yourself. Their academic performance, their social interactions, their overall well-being." She nodded slowly. "That's actually why I called you in today. I've been reviewing their records, and I have some questions about their recent achievements." My heart sank further. Had Patricia's campaign actually convinced the school I was an unfit mother? "Mrs. Sullivan," Principal Martinez continued, "are you aware that Sophie's reading level is 2 grades above average?" and that Lucas's recent science project was selected for the district showcase. I blinked, confused by her tone. Yes, we read together every night, and Lucas is passionate about science. We converted part of the garage into a learning space for their projects. A small smile appeared on Principal Martinez's face. The reason I'm asking is that I've been documenting your children's progress since these concerns were raised. I have 3 months of detailed observations, academic records, and teacher reports. She pulled out a thick folder. Would you be interested in reviewing this documentation with me? I think it tells a very different story than the one being spread around our school community. For the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. Principal Martinez hadn't called me in to accuse me. She called me in to help. As we went through the folder, I saw page after page of positive reports. Sophie and Lucas's impressive academic progress, their strong social skills, their healthy lunch choices, their clean and weather-appropriate clothing, their happy dispositions. Mrs. Sullivan, Principal Martinez said finally, I want you to know that I'm planning to call a special PTA meeting next week. These unfounded accusations about your parenting are creating a toxic environment in our school community, and it needs to be addressed. I thought about Patricia's smug face, her daily attempts to undermine me, her constant criticism disguised as concern. What exactly are you planning? Principal Martinez's smile turned determined. I believe it's time for everyone to see the actual evidence of your children's thriving development. Sometimes the best way to counter gossip is with facts. As I left her office, I felt lighter than I had in months. Patricia might have convinced everyone to doubt my parenting, but she hadn't counted on one thing: the quiet daily proof of my children's happiness and success. My phone buzzed with a text from James. Mom says you were called to the principal's office. Everything okay? I smiled, thinking about Principal Martinez's folder of evidence. Everything's fine, I replied. In fact, I think things are about to get very interesting. The PTA meeting was scheduled for Thursday afternoon. Word spread quickly, and the usually half-empty meetings were suddenly the hottest ticket in town. Patricia had spent the week alternating between calling James to express her concerns and rallying her supporters among the other parents. I sat in the front row of the school auditorium, my hands folded calmly in my lap, while Patricia held court 3 rows behind me. I could hear her stage-whispered predictions about my imminent exposure as an unfit mother. I just hope the children will be able to spend more time with their father after this, she said loudly enough for me to hear. They need a proper parental figure. Principal Martinez walked to the podium, and the room fell silent. She carried the same thick folder I'd seen in her office, now accompanied by a laptop and projector. Thank you all for coming, she began. We're here today to address some serious allegations that have been circulating about one of our parents. Rather than letting rumors persist, I believe it's time to look at the facts. Patricia shifted smugly in her seat. I remained still, watching as Principal Martinez pulled up the first slide. These are Sophie and Lucas Sullivan's academic progress charts for the past 3 months. The graphs showed steady upward trends in every subject. As you can see, both children are excelling academically. Sophie's reading comprehension is particularly noteworthy. She clicked to the next slide. This is Lucas's science project that won the district showcase. The judges were particularly impressed by the detailed research and hands-on experimentation, all conducted in the family's home laboratory. Photos appeared of the learning space I created in our garage with its microscopes, educational posters, and carefully organized project materials. I heard murmurs of surprise from the parents. Moving on to the concerns about nutrition, Principal Martinez continued, pulling up images from the school's lunch monitoring system. The Sullivan children consistently bring balanced, healthy lunches. Our school nutritionist has specifically commended their meal variety and portion sizing. Patricia's voice cut through the murmurs. Anyone can pack a good lunch for show. What about their obvious signs of neglect? Principal Martinez's expression remained professional, but I saw a glint in her eye. I'm glad you brought that up, Mrs. Wilson. Let's discuss the children's overall well-being. She played a video compilation from school events showing Sophie and Lucas actively participating in class, playing with friends, and enthusiastically sharing their achievements. Their clothes were clean and appropriate, their smiles genuine, their interaction with me natural and loving. These are not children showing signs of neglect. Principal Martinez stated firmly. These are children who are thriving under attentive, thoughtful parenting. The room had grown very quiet. I could feel Patricia's supporters shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Furthermore, Principal Martinez added, I have statements from all of Sophie and Lucas's teachers. She began reading excerpts praising their politeness, their enthusiasm for learning, and their strong support system at home. Mrs. Sullivan has never missed a parent-teacher conference, their homeroom teacher's statement read. She's actively involved in their education while encouraging independence and creativity. I finally turned to look at Patricia. Her face had lost its usual superior expression, replaced by something between shock and anger. The other parents were pointedly avoiding her gaze. In light of these facts, Principal Martinez concluded, I want to make something very clear. This school does not tolerate bullying, not among students and not among parents. The spreading of malicious rumors stops today. As the meeting adjourned, several parents approached me, offering awkward apologies for believing Patricia's accusations. My former friends looked especially ashamed, remembering how quickly they turned against me. Patricia stood alone, her carefully constructed narrative crumbling around her. As I walked past, she grabbed my arm. This isn't over, she hissed. James will hear about how you orchestrated this whole thing to humiliate me. I gently removed her hand. Actually, Patricia, James has already heard everything. I called him last night. Her face paled. You what? He's been watching the whole meeting via video call, I said, holding up my phone where James's face appeared on screen. Would you like to speak with him? James's face on the phone screen was a mixture of anger and disappointment as he looked at his mother. Mom, we need to talk, he said, his voice firm. Patricia took an involuntary step backward, her carefully maintained composure finally cracking. James, darling, you don't understand. I was only trying to protect the children, she stammered, but James cut her off. I've watched everything, Mom. The meeting, the evidence, and I've been getting reports from the neighbors about your behavior for weeks. I just didn't want to believe it. I excused myself, leaving Patricia to face her son's disappointment alone. Outside the auditorium, Sophie and Lucas were waiting with their after-school club supervisor. Their faces lit up when they saw me, completely unaware of the drama that had just unfolded. Mom, can we get ice cream? Sophie asked, bouncing on her toes. We finished all our homework in study club. Looking at their hopeful faces, I made a decision. You know what? Yes. Let's celebrate. At the ice cream parlor, my phone buzzed with messages from James. He was cutting his business trip short, coming home tomorrow instead of next week. We need to handle this as a family, his text read. I'm so sorry, Emma. I should have seen this coming. That evening, after the twins were asleep, I sat in our home office, reviewing the day's events. The learning space in the garage that Patricia had criticized as unnecessary showing off was visible through the window, fairy lights twinkling inside. I created that space because Sophie and Lucas loved learning, not to prove anything to anyone. James called just before midnight. Mom's staying at a hotel tonight, he said, sounding exhausted. She had a lot to say, but mostly excuses. I told her she needs professional help if she wants to remain part of our children's lives. How did she take that? I asked, though I could guess. About as well as you'd expect. She claims we're all against her, that she's being punished for caring too much. He sighed heavily. Emma, I'm so sorry I didn't stop this sooner. The next morning, James arrived home just as I was making breakfast. The twins launched themselves at him, chattering excitedly about their week. I watched him hug them, saw the realization in his eyes of how close his mother had come to damaging our family. Where's Grammy Pat? Lucas asked innocently. She usually comes for breakfast on Fridays. James knelt down to their level. Grammy Pat needs some time to herself for a while. But that doesn't mean she doesn't love you. Is it because she was mean to Mom? Sophie asked, surprising us both. We heard her saying bad things about Mom to other parents. Nothing gets past you two, does it? James smiled sadly. Yes, Grammy Pat hasn't been very nice lately, and she needs time to think about her behavior. Over the next few weeks, our family settled into a new rhythm. Patricia's absence was noticeable but peaceful. The PTA moms who had shunned me gradually returned, shamefaced and apologetic. Some even asked about volunteering in our garage learning space, impressed by what they'd seen in Principal Martinez's presentation. Principal Martinez became an unexpected ally. implementing new anti-bullying policies that extended to parent behavior. Your situation highlighted a gap in our community guidelines, she told me during a parent-teacher conference. We protect our children from bullying but sometimes forget that parents can be just as harmful. A month after the meeting, Patricia reached out through her therapist, requesting a supervised visit with the twins. James and I discussed it thoroughly before agreeing. She's still their grandmother, I said, surprising myself by advocating for her. If she's genuinely working on herself, maybe we owe her that chance. The visit was short and carefully monitored. Patricia was subdued, her usual criticisms notably absent. She brought the twins books about science and art, showing she actually paid attention to their interests rather than pushing her own agenda. "Emma," she said as she was leaving, her voice quiet. I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting my grandchildren, but I was only protecting my own ego." It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. Today, 6 months later, our family has found a new balance. Patricia's visits are still supervised but more relaxed. She's learning to be a grandmother rather than a critic, though she sometimes slips. When she does, James or I remind her gently but firmly of boundaries. The twins continue to thrive. Sophie's reading now 3 grades above level, and Lucas's latest science project won a state competition. Our garage learning space has become a hub for after-school study groups, with parents volunteering their time and expertise. Yesterday, I overheard Patricia telling a new school parent about her wonderful daughter-in-law who created an amazing learning environment for the children. The praise felt genuine, without her usual undercurrent of criticism. As I watched her interact with the twins later, showing genuine interest in their activities rather than looking for faults, I realized something important. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about winning or proving someone wrong. Sometimes it's about giving people the chance to become better versions of themselves. The evidence hadn't just changed everything, it had changed everyone, including Patricia herself.